In this first part of our lectures on series of real numbers, we will give the basic definitions, discuss a few elementary properties, and also the geometric series of real numbers. So, first of all, suppose you are given any sequence in R, and if you let Sn to be equal to summation k is equal to 1 to n ak, that is, you are taking the sum of the first n terms of the given sequence an, then this new sequence Sn is actually expressed as summation k equal to 1 to infinity ak, and it is called a series. So this is our logical definition, but basically what we want to mean by a series is an infinite sum. So that is what it is actually. So what you are doing is that you are looking at a1 plus a2, then a1 plus a2 plus a3, and so on, and you want to keep on adding numbers so that uh, you get whatever you get, that mathematical object you would like to call a series. And obviously what you would like is that this infinite sum will actually be a real number. That is the best thing possible which can happen. So we will see by the end of this lecture why this becomes a very crucial problem. And because in general, if you start thinking about it, it may not give you a real number if you keep on adding arbitrary real numbers one after another, right? Suppose your sequence an is just uh, the sequence n, that is the nth term is n, then your Sn is going to be just 1. S2 is going to be A1 plus A2, so that is just 1 plus 2, so it becomes 3. And then when you look at S3, then you add 1 plus 2 plus 3, so you get 6. And you can imagine that what you are going to get is that this sequence is actually going to diverge to infinity in this case. So, and in any case, intuitively also you can imagine that if you keep on adding 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus etc., then you cannot expect that you will be getting a real number if you keep on adding infinite sums. The surprising part is that sometimes you do get a real number when you keep on adding these uh, AKs one after another. And so in fact the convergence is the surprising part. I mean, generally you would think that if you took an infinite sum, you should be getting an infinity type of thing. So this concept of infinite sum, logically we have described it as follows, that you are given a sequence of real numbers and you have constructed this new sequence Sn, which consists of which is equal to, actually Sn is equal to the sum of the first n terms of the given sequence an, right? And that is going to be called a series, and the notation is summation k is equal to 1 to infinity ak. So these numbers Sn, the new nth term of the new sequence formed from this sequence an, is called the nth partial sum of the series. And our definition is that if limit n tending to infinity Sn is equal to S, then we say that the series summation k equal to 1 to infinity ak converges, and we write this as summation k equal to 1 to infinity ak is equal to the limit n tending to infinity Sn. So if limit n tending to infinity Sn is equal to S, then we get summation k is equal to 1 to infinity ak equal to S, and S is called the sum of the series if it is a convergent series, right? So what we are going to do is that we are going to describe the behavior of the series dependent on its sequence of partial sums, right? So look at the nth partial sum and look at a sequence whose nth term is the nth partial sum of the given series. So however, whatever the behavior of the sequence Sn is, that will be uh, called as the behavior of the given series, right? So the first part you have already seen, which is the most crucial one, that we will say that the series is convergent if its sequence of nth partial sums of the series converges, and in this case we say that the limit of the sequence of the nth partial sums is the sum of the series, right? So that is summation k equal to 1 to infinity ak equal to s, as you can see from this slide. So what is going to happen if the sequence uh, Sn is not convergent? So if this, that will mean that the series summation k equal to 1 to infinity ak is not convergent, then we will call it divergent. The terminology is the same as for sequences, and then you see that depend, as I said, that if the sequence Sn diverges to infinity, then we will say that the series summation ak is properly divergent to infinity. If the sequence diverges to minus infinity, then we will say that the series summation ak is properly divergent to minus infinity. And if the sequence Sn is oscillatory, then we will say that the series summation ak is oscillatory. So the behavior of the series is completely defined using the behavior of the sequence of its partial sums. Okay, so once you uh, agree to this, understand this, the results which follow for sequence of real numbers will translate to the corresponding results of uh, a series, right? So the first one, for example, you'll look at this, that suppose you have a convergent sequence summation aj j equal to 1 to infinity, and suppose it converges to L, and take any real number c. Then if you consider a new series uh, whose underlying sequence, if you like, is CAJ, right? So if you consider the series summation j equal to 1 to infinity CAJ, where C is a fixed real number, then that will also be convergent, and it will converge to exactly C times summation j equal to 1 to infinity AJ. That is CL in this case, as you can see from the slide. So this is quite an expected result, because such a result is true for sequences, right? So all you need is to write down the partial sums of the series summation j is equal to 1 to infinity aj and summation j is equal to 1 to infinity caj, and compare them. That will give you the proof. And so you notice that you can always write down the sequence of partial sums, but it may converge or may not converge. That is a different thing altogether. So let us see. Suppose I call Sn to be the nth partial sum of the series summation j equal to 1 to infinity aj. Then what does Sn look like? Sn is equal to summation k equal to 1 to n ak, right? So what is Csn? Csn is equal to summation k is equal to 1 to n c times ak, right? Sn is a finite sum, so if you multiply by a real number, then that just becomes equal to uh, product of c with each of the term of the sum, and then taking the sum, right? So Csn is exactly equal to this. Now summation k is equal to 1 to n cak is the nth partial sum of the series summation j is equal to 1 to infinity caj. So what are you saying? That if Sn is the nth partial sum of the series summation j is equal to 1 to infinity aj, then Csn is the nth partial sum of the series summation j is equal to 1 to infinity caj. So that is the crucial thing which you have to notice. Now what do you have that this series converges to L, right? Summation j is equal to 1 to infinity, aj is equal to L. So what does that mean? That is exact by definition. So therefore I have used if and only if notation here. By definition, this means that limit n tending to infinity, Sn is equal to L. But we know from the theory of sequences that this implies that limit n tending to infinity, Csn is equal to Cl, right? For any real number C. And that is by definition uh, the meaning of convergence of the series summation j is equal to 1 to infinity Caj, and what is going to be its sum? It is just going to be the limit of its uh, sequence of partial sums. So it is going to be exactly equal to Cl. So it is as simple as that. So you notice that whatever you wish to say about series, you just look at what is happening at the level of its sequence of partial sums, and then you can conclude your arguments. So let us do one more of this type. Suppose you have two convergence series, summation j equal to 1 to infinity aj equal to L, and summation j is equal to 1 to infinity bj equal to M. Then you wish to say that if you construct a new series whose underlying sequence is aj plus bj, right? So if you look at the series summation j is equal to 1 to infinity aj plus bj, then that series will also converge, and it will converge to exactly L plus M. That is what you wish to prove. So again, what you are supposed to do is that you just look at the partial sums of the series summation aj and summation bj and find out what is going to be the partial sum of the series summation aj plus bj. And this is quite trivial actually. You can guess what is going to happen. So I have just written it down so that you can understand the way your arguments proceed. So suppose Sn is the nth partial sum of the series summation aj, then Sn will look like summation k equal to 1 to n ak. Similarly, if Tn is the nth partial sum of the series summation bj, then Tn will look like summation k equal to 1 to n bk. Now, if you just look at what is summation, what is just Sn plus Tn, then you have a finite sum Sn and you have another finite sum Tn, and you are adding them together. So there is no problem with a rearrangement, right? Here what is happening is you are looking at a1 plus a2 plus etc till an, and here you have b1 plus b2 plus etc till bn, and you are adding these two. So what you can do is that you can just write it as a1 plus b1 plus a2 plus b2 plus etc plus an plus bn. So there is no problem with finite sums. So at least Sn plus Tn is going to look like summation k equal to 1 to n ak plus bk. Now what is summation k equal to 1 to n ak plus bk? That is exactly the nth partial sum of the series summation j equal to 1 to infinity aj plus bj. So therefore Sn plus Tn is the nth partial sum of the series summation aj plus bj, where j ranges from 1 to infinity. Correct? So what do we have now? We have that summation j is equal to 1 to infinity aj is equal to L, and summation j is equal to 1 to infinity bj is equal to M. So that by definition means that limit n tending to infinity Sn is equal to L, and limit n tending to infinity Tn is equal to M. Therefore, by your theory of sequences, you know that limit n tending to infinity, Sn plus Tn is equal to L plus M. But since Sn plus Tn is the nth partial sum of the series summation j equal to 1 to infinity aj plus bj, this means by definition that summation j is equal to 1 to infinity aj plus bj is convergent, and its sum is equal to L plus M. So it is as straightforward as this, right? So you have seen that if you multiply a series by a scalar term by term, then what happens? vis-a-vis convergence if the original series was convergent, and if you take two convergent series and if you add their terms, uh, if you add them term by term, then the corresponding series would also be convergent, and it would be the sum would be equal to the sum of the original two given two series, right? So this is the basic thing which is happening. And let us look at another result which is extraordinarily important, even though it may look trivial if you see at it in the first glance, and the proof is also actually trivial, but it is going to be extremely useful for us. What is it saying? That suppose you have a series j summation j equal to 1 to infinity aj, and suppose you fix a positive integer m, then look at the series summation j is equal to m plus 1 to infinity aj. That is, you leave out the first m terms. Then what you can say is that the series summation j equal to 1 to infinity aj will be convergent if and only if summation j is equal to m plus 1 to infinity aj is convergent. So if you leave out the first m terms, the convergence of one of the series is going to be a necessary and a sufficient condition of the other. Not only that, if summation j is equal to 1 to infinity aj converges, then uh, as you have already mentioned that this series summation j equal to m plus 1 to infinity aj will also be convergent, and what you will actually have is that the series, the sum of this series summation j is equal to m plus 1 to infinity aj will be equal to summation j is equal to 1 to infinity aj minus summation j is equal to 1 to m aj, right? So you notice one thing here, that what we have done is that the sum of the series we are also expressing as summation j is equal to m plus 1 to infinity aj. Sum of a series is a real number, right? So logically speaking, when you write down this quantity, say summation j is equal to 1 to infinity aj, what you actually have is the idea of a series, and that series means that there is a sequence of its partial sums, right? That is all we meant by this notation. And then if it was convergent, then we had said that it will its sum will be equal to the limit of its sequence of partial sums. So since we wrote, if you remember that first slide, that we wrote that we will write it like this. So therefore the sum of the series is also written like this, provided your series is convergent. Okay, so there should be no confusion as to that. And this is a very neat result, that summation j is equal to m plus 1 to infinity aj will be exactly equal to summation j equal to 1 to infinity aj minus summation j is equal to 1 to m aj, provided these series converge. And this is just a real number, right? It is addition of m many real numbers, so it is going to be a real number. Okay, so this is again going to be trivial to prove, but it is going to be very useful. So let us look at the proof. Again, what will you do? You let the nth partial sum of the given series be denoted by Sn. Then Sn is what? Sn is equal to summation k is equal to 1 to n ak for all positive integers n. And suppose that this sum of the first m terms, summation j is equal to 1 to m aj, you call it t. Then what is Sn minus t? Sn was summing from 1 to n and t is summing from 1 to m. So Sn minus t is defined for n greater than equal to m plus 1, right? So after the mth term, actually you could include the mth term also, then you would get a 0. So let us ignore that one. So if you take your n to be greater than equal to m plus 1, then Sn minus t is going to be what? You're just subtracting the first m terms from the first n terms. So you are left out with summation k is equal to m plus 1 to n ak, right? If you are not used to this summation notation, you just write, expand and write. It will not be a big deal. What is this? This is a1 plus a2 plus etc plus an minus, you are doing a1 plus a2 plus etc till am. So you are left with am plus 1 plus am plus 2 plus etc plus am, right? So that is all you are saying here. Okay, but what is summation k is equal to m plus 1 to n ak? That is the nth partial sum of the series summation j is equal to m plus 1 to infinity aj. So I'm saying nth, actually it will be n minus mth partial sum, but if you take the first few terms to be 0, there will be no problem. And so let us call it the n minus mth term only. Okay, so this is if you take n equal to m plus 1, then what you get is sm plus 1 minus t is going to be the first term of this series, right? First term of this series. And then if you take n equal to m plus 2, then it will be just am plus 1 plus am plus 2. So that will be the second partial sum of this series, and so on. So if you look at any m plus k here, that will give you the kth partial sum of the uh, second series which you have in question, summation j equal to m plus 1 to infinity aj. Okay, so now let us see what is happening. If you look at summation j is equal to 1 to infinity aj, if it converges to it converges to L, means that is, this is a necessary and sufficient condition that its corresponding sequence of partial sums is convergent and is converging to L, right? Now by your theory of sequences, you know that if you just subtract a real number from each Sn, this is just a real number, right? So then what will happen? The sequence will be convergent and it will converge to L minus t. And similarly, if this sequence Sn minus t, if it converges to L minus t, then if you just add a t here, you will get that limit n tending to infinity Sn is equal to L. So this is a necessary and sufficient condition. That is true for Sn. Till now we are not bothering about anything else. But now you bother that Sn minus t is going to be the n minus mth partial sum of the series summation j is equal to m plus 1 to infinity. So therefore, this convergence is a necessary and sufficient condition for the series summation j equal to m plus 1 to infinity aj to converge. And where will it converge? It will converge to the limit of its sequence of partial sums, so it will converge to L minus t, right? So everywhere you notice there is an if and only if type of if and only if situation happening. So what you get, you have proved your result, that if you take a series summation j is equal to 1 to infinity aj, let me just repeat the result once more, then this series will be convergent if and only if you leave out the first m terms of the series and look at summation j equal to m plus 1 to infinity aj, that series converges, right? And not only that, if the series converges, then you have a very neat formula which actually happens for finite sums. So that is true for infinite sums also here, provided this one is finite. Okay, you're leaving out only the first finitely many terms. So summation j is equal to m plus 1 to infinity aj is equal to summation j is equal to 1 to infinity aj minus summation j is equal to 1 to m aj, right? Provided the given series in question are convergent. Okay. So till now, whatever series of real numbers we have been considering are have been a series of any real numbers. We have not fixed given any other condition on it. But suppose now that you take a series summation j is equal to 1 to infinity aj, where each aj is non-negative. So aj is greater than equal to for all j is equal to for all j positive integers. Then what happens? Then what I want to claim is that it is not going to be an oscillatory series. It will either converge or diverge to infinity. That is our claim. So how will you prove that? You look at the nth partial sum of the series. So what does it look like? Sn is equal to summation j is equal to 1 to n aj, right? So if you look at Sn plus 1 minus Sn, what will happen? Sn plus 1 is a1 plus a2 plus etc. till an plus 1, and Sn is a1 plus a2 plus etc. till an. So if you look at Sn plus 1 minus Sn, that is going to give you just an plus 1, right? Everything else cancels out, and an plus 1 is greater than equal to 0. So if you have a series of non-negative terms, then its sequence of partial sums is a monotonically increasing sequence, right? And this monotonically increasing sequence has the behavior that it is convergent if it is a bounded sequence. Bounded means bounded above sequence, right? It is always bounded below. So it is convergent if it is a bounded sequence, and it is divergent to infinity if it is an unbounded sequence. So from there it follows that your given series of non-negative terms is either going to be convergent when its sequence of partial sums is a bounded sequence, or it is going to be divergent to infinity if its sequence of partial sums forms an unbounded sequence, right? So it is a very nice result that tells you that for series of non-negative terms, actually you can hope for only two things, and that is good. One is that it either converges, or if it doesn't converge, then it has to properly diverge to infinity. Okay. So as you can expect that since whatever concepts on series we have been defining is dependent on its sequence of partial sums, and the convergence of a sequence depends on a criterion given by Cauchy. So therefore we will also have a Cauchy's criterion for convergence for a series, right? So let us first read out what the statement is, and then we will see how easily the proof comes. So suppose you look at a series summation k equal to 1 to infinity ak. Again, you're not uh, imposing any condition on what AKs are here. So only in only one case, that was the previous result, we assumed that the AKs were non-negative, but as such, we are not assuming that AK is, there is any condition on AK, right? AK could be any real number. So suppose you have such a series, summation k equal to 1 to infinity AK, then Cauchy's criterion tells you that it is convergent if and only if for any epsilon greater than 0, you will be able to get a positive integer capital N, such that if you look at the sum k is equal to n to m ak, modulus of that will be less than epsilon for all mn greater than or equal to capital N. So naturally, when I am writing k is equal to n to m, I want at least that m should be greater than equal to n. So otherwise, this sum is not empty, so it doesn't make any sense. So we put in that condition. So what do you want? That you are looking at uh, the partial sums, and the tail end of whatever you are adding it up of that sequence in the sequence, that is going to become small as you like after a certain stage. So precisely this is the Cauchy's criterion, and we will try to remember it like this only, that it is convergent if and only if for any epsilon greater than 0, you will get a positive integer n, so that mod of summation k is equal to n to m ak is less than epsilon. So whatever you're adding up is becoming smaller and smaller. That is what you would like, right? So for an infinite sum to give a real number. Okay. So for this mn satisfying this inequality, that m is greater than equal to n is greater than equal to capital N. Okay, so how will you prove this? You just look at its sequence of partial sums. So Sn is the nth partial sum, suppose, of the given series. Then what does Sn look like? Sn is equal to summation k is equal to 1 to n ak for every positive integer n, right? Now the series is convergent if and only if the sequence Sn is convergent, right? And the Cauchy's criterion for the convergence of the sequence Sn is the necessary and sufficient condition that for any epsilon greater than 0, you will be able to get a positive integer n, so that whenever m is greater than equal to little n is greater than equal to capital N, then mod of Sm minus Sn minus 1 is less than epsilon. So you may say that why did you write Sn minus 1 here? I wrote it just to uh, make our expression neat, that is all. So remember what was actually, if you have just state by rote, then Cauchy's criterion for convergence of the sequence was that you should be able to, for any epsilon greater than 0, you should be able to get a positive integer capital N, so that for all little m greater than n greater than equal to capital N, this condition mod Sm minus Sn should be less than epsilon. So for that capital N, what you do is you just, instead of looking at that particular capital N, you look at capital N plus 1. So there is no problem with writing this now in this fashion, right? So all you need is you want a term after which this inequality should hold. So you choose a suitable term so that n minus 1 is greater than that, right? So therefore you can write it like this also. Okay, and when m is equal to n, then m is strictly greater than n minus 1. So that is not going to cause you a problem. By the way, if you compare it with the way we stated the Cauchy's criterion for sequences, right? And why did I do this is just the following, that if you look at Sm, then it is summation k is equal to 1 to mak, and what is Sn minus 1? That is summation k is equal to 1 to n minus 1 ak. So from this sum, you're subtracting this finite sum. So all you're left with summation k is equal to n to m ak. So therefore, your Cauchy's criterion is satisfied. And this is a necessary and sufficient condition, right? If and only if this happens, and then you just made an observation that this is actually equal to this, therefore the Cauchy's criterion is true, right? That you will have such a situation. Okay, so this is something which as we learned for sequences is a useful thing to prove certain results, but Cauchy's determining whether a sequence satisfies the Cauchy's criterion is a problem equally hard as proving whether a sequence is convergent or not, right? This was a necessary and sufficient condition, and that actually implies that Cauchy's criterion is going to be useful in determining certain things which will finally be of practical help. But as such, you just knowing the Cauchy's criterion is not going to help you just look at a series and determine whether it is convergent or not. It is going to be, it is as easy or as difficult as if you look at the original series and just try to find out whether it is convergent or not from the first principle. Okay, so this much I would like to mention about Cauchy's criterion, but this is extraordinarily important because it will lead to certain tests which will be handy when we want to find out whether a series is convergent or not. But before that, I want to discuss a very important series which is called the geometric series. So suppose you take any x in R, and suppose mod x is less than 1, then you can show that summation n equal to 0 to infinity xn is equal to 1 by 1 minus x. So what is summation n equal to 0 to infinity xn? X to the power n, it will look like 1 plus x squared plus x cube, etc. It is starting from 0, right? So the first term is 1, the second partial sum is 1 plus x, the third is 1 plus x squared, and so on. So this is your geometric series. But for later use, what I have done is that I have discussed the other cases also. That is, what happens when x is greater than equal to 1? You can show that the series summation n equal to 0 to infinity x to the power n will actually diverge to infinity if x is greater than equal to 1. If x is equal to minus 1, then the series will oscillate finitely, and when x is less than minus 1, then the series will oscillate infinitely. Why I have done this is, first of all, to understand the series in full details, that why did we have to put this condition mod x less than 1 will become clearer, I hope. And secondly, this is going to be again useful when we are going to talk about Taylor series expansions, right? So let us do this one by one. So first of all, whenever you want to talk about a series, you look at its sequence of partial sums. So suppose the nth partial sum of that given series, summation n equal to 0 to infinity xn, is denoted by s little n. Then s little n is what? Summation j is equal to 0 to n xn. Okay, so what you have seen such a formula before also. So if you take your x not equal to 1, it, I have to make a typo somewhere or the other. So this is not x subscript, this is x to the power. Okay, so Sn is what? Sn is 1 plus x squared plus etc plus x to the power n, and we saw that this is equal to 1 minus x to the power n plus 1 divided by 1 minus x. This is power. Okay, and for later use, I'm also writing it that if I multiply the numerator and denominator by minus 1, this is also equal to x to the power n plus 1 minus 1 divided by x minus 1. So remember how you proved this? You just multiply 1 minus x with this expression. This is x to the power n. Then you will get 1 minus x to the power n plus 1. Okay, so we know Sn looks like this. And now we can start handling the series. So what do we know about sequences? From the theory of sequences, we saw then that when mod x is less than 1, then limit n tending to infinity x to the power n is 0, right? So if you take limit n tending to infinity Sn, what will happen? This will be equal to 1 by 1 minus x. So therefore, when mod x is less than 1, then the given series converges, and it converges to 1 by 1 minus x. So that is the first part, right? Okay. Next, you suppose x is greater than 1, because this formula which we got, I'm sorry, this formula which we got was for x not equal to 1. So for x equal to 1, we have to handle it differently. So if x is greater than 1, then also we have observed it. Limit n tending to infinity, x to the power n is infinity. That is, the sequence x to the power n diverges to infinity, right? So let us look at what is Sn. Sn is 1 minus x to the power n plus 1 by 1 minus x. This denominator is a constant now because you have fixed a x greater than 1. If you like, you look at this one. So it is a positive. This is easier, right? So the denominator is now positive because whatever you're multiplying with, if I take that to be positive, then it is easier to talk about where the sequence will diverge. And in the numerator, this is diverging to infinity. Limit n tending to infinity, x to the power n is infinity if x is greater than 1. So the numerator is diverging to infinity. Now what is Sn? It is just multiplying that divergent sequence to infinity by a positive constant. So therefore it will still diverge to infinity, right? So when x is greater than 1, then Sn clearly diverges to infinity. What happens when x is equal to 1? Then this is bad. Okay, so when x is equal to 1, then Sn is going to be just 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 and so on. How many times? N plus 1 times, right? This is x to the power n. So it starts with x to the power 0 and ends at x to the power n. So there are n plus 1 terms. So if x is equal to 1, then Sn is exactly equal to n plus 1. And we know that limit n tending to infinity, Sn is infinity in this case. So that is, the sequence Sn diverges to infinity. Therefore, the series will also diverge to infinity. So the second part is also done. That if x is greater than equal to 1, then summation n equal to 0 to infinity x to the power n will actually diverge to infinity. So all we have to now check is what happens when x is equal to minus 1 and what happens when x is less than minus 1. So what was Sn? Again, remember, Sn is 1 plus x squared plus etc. plus x to the power n, right? So suppose I put x is equal to minus 1. So what is your first term? First term is going to be 1, right? And because it is just x to the power 0. The second term is going to be, okay. So when I'm talking about Sn here, I'm talking about the sequence as S0, S1, S2, S3 and so on. Okay. So S0 is going to be 1 because it is just minus 1 to the power 0. S1 is going to be what? Minus 1 to the power 0 plus minus 1 to the power 1. So that becomes 1 plus minus 1. So it is 0. So S1 is 0. S2 is, again you add a minus 1 to the power 2. So S2 is going to be 1. S3 is again going to be 0 and so on. So your sequence Sn is going to oscillate finitely. Therefore, the original series also oscillates finitely. Finally, when x is less than minus 1, then what happens? Recall that we had observed this, that when x is not equal to 1, then we had an expression for Sn. So I am writing that down. So what is Sn now? Sn is equal to x to the power n plus 1 minus 1 divided by x minus 1, right? And what do you know about 1 by x minus 1? That is a scalar and that is actually less than 0 because x is less than minus 1. So x minus 1 is going to be less than minus 2. So 1 by x minus 1 is less than 0. Again, if you have x less than minus 1, that means that mod x is going to be a number greater than 1. So limit n tending to infinity mod x to the power n is infinity. Therefore, what do you get? You look at the subsequence consisting of even terms of the given sequence, right? I'm always starting from S0, right? So S0, S2, S4 and so on. So there x to the power 2m plus 1. This is what you will get in the numerator minus 1, right? So x to the power 2m plus 1, if you look at that, then that can be written as minus 1 to the power 2m plus 1 times mod x to the power 2m plus 1, right? Because x is negative now. So what happens is that mod x to the power 2m plus 1, that is diverging to infinity, and you are multiplying it with minus 1 to the power 2m plus 1. That is, you are multiplying with minus 1. So this limit, when n is 2m, then limit n tending to infinity x to the power n plus 1 is going to be minus infinity, right? So the numerator, this is just a subtraction by minus 1, so that is not going to affect. The numerator is diverging to minus infinity when n is 2m. And then what you are doing is you are multiplying each term of this divergent sequence by a negative number. So therefore, the sequence S2m is actually diverging to infinity. And similarly, if you look at the subsequence S2m plus 1 of this given sequence, then its numerator is going to diverge where? you have minus 1 to the power 2m plus 2 now. So that becomes 1, and then mod x to the power 2m plus 2, that diverges to infinity. So the numerator is actually a divergent sequence diverging to infinity. I'm right or wrong? Yeah, it is diverging to infinity, and then you multiply with a negative scalar 1 by x minus 1. So finally s2m plus 1, this subsequence will diverge to minus infinity. So you have a subsequence of which diverges to infinity, and a subsequence of which diverges to minus infinity. So given any positive number m, you are always going to get a term of the sequence which is greater than m, and you will get a term of the sequence which will be less than minus m. So there will be an infinite oscillation in this case, and hence the series will oscillate infinitely. So I hope I have made myself clear, and in the next lecture what we will do is that we will start looking at some specific tests for the convergence of a series. Okay, so we stop here now.